Good morning and welcome to the monthly edition of the Coal Scene. Within the next half hour, we'll be talking about a number of critical issues confronting the coal industry and thus our state. We'll be talking about important legislation moving through the current legislative session, ranging from a renewable energy portfolio and a higher post-mine land use bill. And we'll also be talking about some of the things going on in Washington affecting coal. We are so pleased to have as our guest today Governor Joe Manchin, West Virginia's 34th governor. Governor, let's dive right into it. The half hour is going to go by very quickly. There's an awful lot going on within the universe of coal, both within our state's boundaries as well as inside the Beltway. Let's begin by talking a little bit about coal and our economy.
Yeah.
You come from a major coal producing region. You've been around it all your life. Why don't you just reflect generally on what it means to you as governor and a little bit about your background?
Over the last few years, you kind of watched coal be villainized, by people that are concerned about the environment, and rightfully so, and then basically use something that they could whip up an awful lot of public opinion and move it in a direction that's not, in my belief, it's not good for this country or the economy of this country. So basically what I've tried to do is explain the history of coal, because people take the quality of life they have today for granted. Most every war in history, as far as history is recorded, was fought over energy, whether it's the cavemen fighting over fire. There's been wars in every period of time that was fought over energy. This country developed because we had a very good source of energy in coal. We had a very stable cost, reliable, stable cost. It was all domestically produced. We didn't have to go overseas and build up any other markets. And we saw the Industrial Revolution. We saw the might of the middle class. We saw the defense of this nation in World War I and II and all other conflicts. Coal was at the forefront every time. So people need to know the history and where we are today. Now with that, there have been some sacrifices. There has been pollution. And every time that it's been brought, and there's been public policy changes, Clean Air Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Clean Air Act, SOx and NOx and scrubbing, and we see all the responsible measures that's been taken. We've continued to meet those challenges. Now we're faced with a challenge with carbon, CO2. Rightfully so, we should approach that, and we'll be able to handle that also. There's just different ways of doing it, and that's the concerns we have. In the economy, I can tell you, for the 4 years I've been governor, and this is going into my second term, we have prospered. We've done a lot of things that I believe were right. We started out 2 years with an extremely progressive legislature that looked and embraced. Bob Kiss leading the House of Delegates at that time and administration, and of course had the stable hand of Earl Ray Tomlin in the Senate, and we were able to do some good things. We changed workers' comp, we changed insurance reform, we started doing tax reforms, we started running a responsible government. We did not expand government and did not spend money on new programs. We started paying down debt, getting our debt. All that helped us. But without the energy market growing, Chris, the way it had, we would not have had the resources to do all that. And the spinoff and ancillary, the jobs and the money that goes into other high-paying industries, spun off of energy, coal, even natural gas, all of them have done well. The markets now are hitting challenging times, and this economy is challenging. So we've got to basically face that, and we're working through that. And we have some alarms that have gone off. New EPA concerns, and we should look at that. I have said this: every new administration, whether it be a governor or a president, in that highest of those public positions, they ought to have the courtesy of reviewing the policies of a previous administration, and then start the dialogue to see if changes can enhance, improve it, or something that should be eliminated because of the detriment. I don't believe that we've had in-depth on that.
I agree, and we're going to get into that a little more in depth here. Back to the economy just momentarily. I know we had to revise our estimates.
Sure.
But for the past 12 months, 18 months, we've had record level severance taxes, primarily because of a strong energy market, high
Right.
pricing indexes on coal, natural gas.
Well, let me just say the coal industry stepped to the plate to fix workers' comp. If we hadn't put a 56-cent surcharge on a ton of coal, we wouldn't have the resources to pay off the debts and to control our old debt. So and then we had the tragedies at Aracoma and Sago. We basically moved forward and put safety at the forefront, the safety of a miner, making sure whatever we did, before we mined 1 ton of coal, we'd make sure that that miner was in the safest condition with the best training to come home safe to their family. We did that, and the coal industry embraced that too. So these have been responsible movements. The economy right now has been as strong as it possibly, the best 4 years in the history of the state we just enjoyed. The challenges, we put ourselves in a position to weather if we stay disciplined. But as we see the coal prices dipping, as we see the metal markets that does not need the metallurgical coal, which for coking plants, that has dwindled, and we have jobs now that are suffering. We're going to go through that law, and how we best get through it is if we manage ourselves through it and don't panic.
I know a lot of people on the streets don't realize that we ship coal, perhaps the finest grade coal, all over the world, and it's predominantly used for steel making, for coking.
Most of southern West Virginia has the finest, and that's where the richest coal fields in the world, and the best coal fields, and the best coal miners come from West Virginia. And southern West Virginia has been blessed with a high quality of coal for the purpose of steel making. Northern West Virginia and some of southern West Virginia has been more in tune with the steam market, basically creating the heat value to make electricity. So we've played a vital part in this economy and this country's growth. We will continue. I've spoken to everyone from President Obama on down to his staff. And I said, and I've spoken to scientists and economists around the country and around the world. I said, if somebody can tell me that there's a new fuel of the future that basically will replace all the existing fossil fuels we've been using for 100 years, and in 5 or 10 years, no more will be needed, I'd say, fine, show it to me. And if we agreed upon that, and they had that source, they had also the vehicle to deliver it to the homes and to the businesses, we would start changing our economy today. There's not one person has said that we will not use coal in America for the next 30 to 50 years as we bridge to the fuel of the future. So when you hear people saying, we have coal for 200 more years, that's wonderful. We probably will not be using coal for 200 years, but we will definitely use it for at least 30 to 50, depending on the development of the new fuels and the grid system that'll deliver it to the homes and businesses of America.
Well, I've heard you say, and we have said, that on a going forward basis, our energy demands, the household, industrial, world, regional, are so great, so enormous, that it's going to take every ounce of energy from every single form.
I did an interview yesterday on a national TV syndicate. I mean, it'll be on, but they asked me about that and what cap and trade, to be more specific. And I said, I think what we have to do is, first of all, we have to realize there is a pollution problem, and coal does add to that. To say that it doesn't is wrong. And bottom line is, to what extent? That's where the disagreement. Okay, but with that, I'll accept that it does, and we are. And on the other hand, that we can do better. Now, with that being said, the cap and trade, as we see it proposed, truly, I've asked the administration and all their people, if you're identifying the problem, do you really want to fix it? Because you know you're going to need to use the coal. And if you're going to fix the problem, then you should put an appropriate amount of money towards research to find the technology that can take the clear stream of carbon and use it into a usable waste fuel. That has to be done, and it can be done. I've been asked the question, how much does it cost? I said, well, I don't know the price tag, but I can tell you this. If 50% of this nation depends on coal for its energy, that means 150 million people. And mostly the entire industrial belt relies on dependable, economical coal in order to fire its economic engines and keeps this economy of America alive. With all that dependency that we have, then you should at least, if you're going to put a tax, then at least half of the tax, or 50%, which is appropriate to what you're expecting coal to produce the energy for, should be used to find a cure for the carbon. And you can use the other 50% of the tax to develop the renewables, wind, solar, hydro, biofuels, and also finding a fuel of the future. We're acceptable to that, and that's a more reasonable. Our prices are going to increase any way you look at it, they're going to increase. We just don't want them to be so inappropriately high that we can't compete in the market, because now the way cap and trades that I understand, there's an array of social problems and social concerns that I agree with. Let's fix health care. Let's make sure we can continue to give tax breaks and put more money in consumers' pockets. But that should be a concern by the entire society, 300 million. It shouldn't be laid on the burden of the industrial part of our country and 150 million to pay an exorbitant high prices. And I've used this, I said, if you tell my mother you're going to give her a $400 or $600 rebate, she'd be very happy. But say, Mom, the only catch is you have to pay $150 more a month for your electric bill. Mom counts pretty good. Mom's pretty bright. Mom's going to say, now wait a minute, Joe, you're telling me you're going to give me $400 or $600, but you want me to pay $1,800 to get it. She's going to say, I'm still going to be in the hole. And that's all we're trying. We're simplistically approaching this, saying, well, that should be a society. Let's take care of that differently. If you want to take care of the energy problem, then that's fine. Use part of the increase to take care, 50%, to find the fuel, to find the cure for burning carbon and using carbon and burning coal. And then how to capture it and how to use it safely as far as a waste product. And the other half, let's develop our renewables and find the fuel of the future. I think that's acceptable.
Well, I think it is acceptable, and as you well know, coal is going to continue to be used, and no state's probably going to experience a bigger impact than our state here as it relates to the implementation or the final construction of the cap and trade program.
Here's, I saw one of the delegates had an editorial basically saying the Governor Manchin's new energy proposal, which is a renewable energy portfolio, is going to increase the price of electricity. I'm here to tell you the price of electricity is increasing, and it's going to increase dramatically. Now we can sit back and do nothing, and it'll increase so dramatically it'll make us non-competitive, and I think it'll wreak havoc on our economy. We can be proactive, and in my administration, every year we bring a proactive agenda, things that we could do to avert or to enhance the quality of life. We've done that consistently. So I said, for me to go to Washington and say, I think you're wrong, and this is where I think you're wrong, and let me tell you the positive steps our state's taking. We're putting a portfolio, renewables, and alternative, or using coal differently to reduce our dependency on coal as we use it today, 10% by 2015, and 25% by 2025. That's very aggressive. And this comment was, or this editorial, that will increase your electric bill. It probably will. But let me tell you this. If you don't do something and proactive, and we stand back, and the federal government pushes a cap and trade, what they're talking about, you're talking 200 to 300% increases. Our economy or our people can't stand that. So if we can be proactive and take control of our own destiny, and also create jobs as we're doing it, and keep the good jobs that we have in the coal industry and ends, then that's what I'm trying to ask people to look outside the box and look with vision where we can be and how we're going to get there. If we're not, I can't defend what position we have, because I've said this is wrong and this is wrong. Anytime you're in a public policy position and someone tells you everything that's wrong, you would like for them to tell you, now let me tell you how I can help you. Or what are you going to do to help yourself? In West Virginia, I don't wait for someone to provide us and to take care of us. I said, I just need a good partner. And I've said, the federal government, here's what we'll do. We've got a good energy, renewable, alternative portfolio. We're being very proactive. We're proposing a good land use bill. If we're going to strip or alter or mountaintop, whatever they want to call it, you better have a use for the land that when it's all said and done, that you've either got an industrial site, housing, you either have agricultural, you should have a solar farm, you should have a wind farm, or you should have agriculture to where you're growing soy or you're growing switchgrass to help with biofuels, and the people living there should have recreational values from the land, and it's a win-win for everybody.
No question. Let's shift there and talk a little bit about some of your legislative programs. You have a very ambitious energy-based legislative program that's moving through the current legislature, and we talked a little bit about the renewable portfolio, the higher land use initiative that you're talking about now. That seems to be tied directly to our continued development of our surface
Sure.
mine resources and mountaintop mining. I don't think that people realize, when people think about West Virginia, they often think of us as an underground coal producing state, an underground mining state, and we are the leading underground mining state in the nation. But over 40% of our coal today comes from surface operations, and a large component of that is mountaintop mining.
Well, the thing I've said is that what people don't understand is a lot of after the 77, Mine Act, in my area of the state up north, they used to strip what we call strip mine, and they would
Right.
strip around, strip around, and look like you were peeling an orange. Nobody liked that, okay? And they said, we can fix that. And they had to put it back to contour, so you can't even tell it was done, if it's done and done right. And they've done a great job from that. But there's not that much that goes on up north. Most of it is in the southern West Virginia. And with that being said, the federal government and everybody involved said, well, we'll contour. When you alter the surface, you put it back in a contour, try to reshape it back. Maybe at the time that was fine. I don't think it was far-sighted with any vision. I think that basically we know in southern West Virginia we don't have much flat land. So if we're going to do anything in West Virginia, and I've said this, if you're going to build a house, you're going to alter the land. Any type of a road or infrastructure, you alter the land. It's just what the good Lord gave us, and we have to be good stewards. If we're going to take the coal and remove it and create the revenue and the jobs, then there should be an enhanced value for the land when we're done. And I'll be honest, if you can't have an enhancement to the land to where everyone benefits and the community embraces it, then it probably won't be permitted. It'll be very difficult. But you just can't paint it with a broad brush, as they've said, and stop it all. There are so many good, responsible things that we've done.
We've had some good examples. There's a lot of development in the Mingo County area.
Absolutely.
Logan County. There's a convention center, a regional jail. There's
Well,
some
look at Chief
industrial
Logan
sites.
State Park.
Chief Logan State Park.
And the lodge and all that. There's a lot of good things that can be, but we have to plan better. That means when we put the roads in, put them to grade. When you put the three-phase power in, let's say, make sure that we understand it. We're going to keep it there for this type. And when we do the land, don't make us go back and put it back to contour. Then we want to do something. We go back and spend millions to take it back down. Let's plan better. And then I think you'll have the community embracing, saying, hey, we're going to have a new development. We're going to have recreation. We've got some agricultural. We've got some commercial. We've got some good things happening. I think we can do much better. I can't go to the federal government and say, I think you're wrong in what you're doing and wanting to stop all this. Because if you look at the challenges we have, we'll never be able to develop. Now, if you're going to subsidize us by having unspoiled, that would be that'd be a different thing. I don't think you're willing to do that as a federal government. Give us a chance to help ourselves and create a balance. And Chris, the bottom line is, to me, the number one word, not just in West Virginia, but through this great country, is balance. You're not going to be too far to the right and too far to the left. You've got to balance, and you've got to give people an opportunity to take care of themselves. And we're trying to do that.
We have a lot of people concerned, a lot of miners are concerned about their future here, and it appears that there's mixed signals coming out of Washington. Yeah. On one hand, we're seeing a lot of increased scrutiny on mining permits. We're hearing things like moratorium, suspension, those kind of words are being used. It's just creating a lot of concern. On the other hand, President Obama, during the campaign, was talking very favorably about clean coal technologies. So there's some mixed signals right now, and it's just creating a lot of apprehension here.
Let me say this. There's no one that wants this president to succeed more than I do. I'm sure there's a lot of people want it just as much as I do, and I think our whole way of life depends upon it. There's a balance. Okay, I applaud the things he's doing and trying to do. I question some of the people he has around as far as the approach they're taking, and that's where the balance comes back in. But I will say this. President Obama's administration, as soon as we heard that there was concerns about reviewing some of our permits, and they wanted to, some people want to interpret that as they want to stop everything. I called the same day that came out. I was in the White House the next day talking to his top people. Doors been open, they're willing to talk. They had a problem, I said, can you come to West Virginia? They came down, they're coming back. So we're trying to work. Now, until I pull the alarm and say that I have given the best shot I have and given the most defensible arguments and tried to present it in a balanced way, and I've got no takers, then that's when we should be concerned. I'm not there yet. I still think that we have a chance to really work something and be more of a balance in tune. With that, thank goodness that we have Senator Byrd and Senator Rockefeller and Congresswoman Capito and Congressman Mullihan and Congressman Rahal. They've all been pretty much in sync. And they've got other legislators in sync, knowing how devastating, not just to defend a way of life, but no one's brought anything that's going to be better and be able to keep the quality of life we have unless we do it in a reasonable, sensible manner.
Well, you know, there's been a lot of programs, a lot of legislative programs, a lot of administrative programs. There's been a lot of court decisions, all of which have resulted in a more strenuous program here. You know, no permits are reviewed with any more scrutiny, any more detail than what surface mining permits are reviewed here in West Virginia. And when you look over the past decade, 15 years, there's been continual improvement with respect to land restoration. As your bill this session reinvigorates the Office of Coalfield Economic Development, so we can put greater emphasis on planning on the front end and tie it in with road construction and renewable development. So there's gradual improvement with an eye towards environmental
all of our good friends in the coal industry and all the good miners that depend on their families, I think, have come to accept that we need to do it differently, and we need to basically be able to show what we're doing in a responsible manner, and we're doing that. But you've got to take responsible actions. You know, when we had the horrible tragedies at Sago and Aracoma, I didn't stand around and say, why didn't we fix this 30 years ago and blame somebody? That didn't fix the thing. It didn't save any of the 12 wonderful people that we lost their lives at Sago or the 2 in Aracoma. What we said is, from this day forward, we'll fix it, and everybody embraced it. What we're saying is that we've been doing it, and we've contributed to the great country that we have because of West Virginia's hard work and efforts. We want to continue to contribute, and we can do it differently, and we think we can do it better. But you can't put all the roadblocks and impediments where we can't even take care of ourselves, let alone help this country remain an economic power in the world. And the only thing I've said to the administration, I says, at the end of the day, in Washington, and President Obama and his administration has to make a determination. Do you want your coal to be domestically produced and mined? Because I think we all have come to an agreement we're going to use the coal. Or do you want the coal to be imported the way we're depending on our other fossil fuels or oil? Do you want all of it to come? And then you think we're in problems today? You haven't seen problems that will come if we are dependent upon our coal industry and the energy from oil that we receive that's coming from other countries that truly have not been very, very acceptable or friendly to our way of life.
We have challenges, of course, on both sides of the equation, not only on the consumption side, but we're looking at challenges that we've never seen here before within the state on the production side. And it's not just permitting. You know, the geology's becoming more and more difficult, thinner seams, higher ratios, and we're having some, as you well know, and you've helped us with the academies.
Well, the good coal, you know,
our manpower needs
our
today.
fathers and grandfathers mined all the real easy coal.
That's it.
They left the tough.
It's that simple.
Dad left the tough work for us, and that's what we're dealing with. So we understand that. The bottom line is that you know, the price of energy is going up.
Mm-hmm.
You or I don't have any control over that. And for people to say it artificially, if you do this or this, I say if you do nothing, it'll be devastating what can happen. We're taking progressive measures in West Virginia to have some control over our destiny and still be a tremendous contribution to this country. And I will defend that. I believe very strongly. I'm willing to go anywhere and talk about it and debate it. I think we have the greatest people, hardest workers, best coal miners in the world. I think we have wonderful coal operators who understand and are willing to invest safety first, and then look at their production and do it as economic, as efficiently as possible. And I think with that, they need good partners. And I think what we owe it from a state, if we truly have data showing that this is wrong and you shouldn't do it, we tell you up front. We don't let you go 3 years down trying to permit it and spending millions of dollars and trying to find every impediment and roadblock to stop you. I'd rather tell you up front, we don't agree, we're not going to give you this permit, and we don't think you should even try to get a permit. But when we see something we know is going to be a balance and an enhancement, we should be working together. And we've got people coming out of the woodworks from all over the country trying to stop everything, even that's something that we all agree is something that we need to do.
That's what seems to be so incongruous
Oh,
right now.
it's
We're in an economic mess nationally, worldwide, and we're losing jobs by the day, hundreds of good-paying jobs. And it just seems incongruous that we're facing the kind of opposition we are to really developing our industry the way it should be
I watched
developed.
the commercial price of electricity for the Century Aluminum had gone from 3.3 cents a kilowatt hour to 3.8 cents, a half a cent. Made the difference economically if they're making some decisions. And we have some of the most attractive rates in commercial power in the country. So we should be able to compete here with anybody.
No question. Well, I think we have time for one last question. You have said, we have said, we've heard a lot of people say that West Virginia has the potential to reach this pinnacle position of being a true center for commerce and energy here, and cold liquids and carbon sequestration. Do you think we'll get there?
Yeah, I do. I think we have. This is during this economic hardship and challenging times that we're in. If we stay disciplined, we got ourselves in better financial shape. We're one of 5 or 6 states that have not gone upside down. We haven't cut our 2009 budget. We have adjusted the 2010 budget because we're planning not to go into a big deficit. We're using our stimulus money, or recommending to using it wisely. We have waited, and I've recommended, let's wait until April figures come in, and then we'll come back and finish up our budget session, which is no more costly than if we'd have stayed here right now. So that's very efficient, and I know that there's been some comments about that, which is totally wrong. Democrats and Republicans should be working together as West Virginians.
No question.
There's enough obstacles out there. We don't have to fight each other. We can basically come together and figure out how we can continue to contribute, and that's what we do best. So that's the type of administration I've tried and leadership that I've tried to provide.
Well, you have, and we certainly, not only within the energy industries, but within the state's boundaries, we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate all your support, and we appreciate your friendship.
It's just, there's just so many good. It's a good people and good state, and it's a great country.